Is this the Mark IV Supra killer? Well, no, probably not, but today we are going to be giving some attention to one of the most slept-on 90s JDM cars of all time, the 1990 to 2000 Mitsubishi 3000GT. Depending on where you live, it could either be called the 3000GT, a Dodge Stealth, or a GTO. If you're in North America like us, you're going to see a bit of all three. We got the Stealth, we got the 3000GT, plus GTOs have been eligible for import for a couple years. As a car built to compete with the likes of FDRX7s, Mark IV Supras, and R33 GTRs, the 3000GT came with a host of go-fast 90s tech, including active aero, adaptive dampening, and four-wheel steering. But you know what it didn't come with from the factory? A decent-looking set of wheels. A set of aftermarket wheels are going to give you better performance and better fitment on your 3000GT. This guide is going to give you everything you need to know. The cool thing is that with renewed interest in this platform, the car community recently figured out how to make these look pretty darn good. It's like we cracked the enigma code to distinguish these cars from Satruns. A large part of this is the choice of wheels that you go with, so without further ado, let's get into the details. Now, basic fitment info is what you'd expect: 5x114 bolt pattern, 12x1.5 lug thread, 67.1 center bore, and 96 foot-pounds of torque. The lug pattern, the lug thread, the center bore, they're all typical sizes for a 90s JDM car, meaning you're free to run a plethora of old school and new school wheels on your 3000GT. We have tons of wheels that fit this car, so check them out at the link down below. So what aftermarket wheels work on a 3000GT? Well, factory specs range from passable but not great to way too small. The fact that a Dodge Stealth, a 3,500-pound car, got 15 by 6.5 wheels is a little bit absurd in my eyes. These are big old cars and can take some decently sized wheels. 17s are the only factory size we recommend. 19s can look good on certain builds, but can also look like clown shoes. 18s are the happy medium, and you really can't go wrong with this size for your 3000GT, regardless of what wheels you wind up choosing. Now for width and offset, the front is the limiting factor on these cars as it is pretty narrow. You could go for a staggered setup, however most people like to keep it square and deal with the limitations. 8.5 to 9.5 inches in width with an offset between 20 and 40 are going to work on this chassis. This doesn't narrow the options down too much, so we're going to go through a whole bunch of examples a little bit later in this video. In classic Mitsubishi style, these cars do have wheel to caliper clearance issues, but not in the usual way you might expect. Normally problems would arise from your brakes being too large, but with the 3000GT they can actually be, well, too small. The trouble area is the diameter of the wheel mounting surface instead of the face or the barrel. This is especially true on the early 3000GTs, which have smaller brakes than the second generation. For the first gen, options are extremely limited, as in a few models of JDM classics such as Work, SSR, plus some TSW models, but a lot of the time wheel spacers are needed to keep that pad off the brake. Second gen brakes still aren't a miracle fix and might require spacers depending on what wheels you go with. The classic solution was to convert your first gen to second gen brakes, becoming unobtainium and getting JDM taxed, so we'd recommend a retrofit from another car or a big brake kit. An Evo 10 brake conversion, as an example, uses the Evo knuckle and other OEM parts. If you're thrifty when you're sourcing parts, this can be a lot cheaper than an aftermarket BBK. Well, either way you look at it, upgrading the brakes will give you more clearance, plus add a little bit of stopping power, which this 3,500-pound aircraft carrier desperately needs. So now, touching on staggered wheels on an all-wheel drive car, well, as long as the rolling diameter is within 2% front to rear, which seems to be the magic number on a lot of cars, you're in the clear. Rolling diameter refers to the overall diameter of the tires, so you can play with offset, width, tire specs, as long as the final diameter of the tire comes within a 2% differential front to rear. A popular combination is a 245/40 in the front and a 275/35 in the rear, which falls well within the acceptable tolerance. So first, we're taking a look at the 3000GT on Vors TR4 18 by 9.5 plus 35 with Yokohama Advent Sport 245/40/18 tires. These wheels do clear the first gen calipers, and it is lowered on coilovers. We're going to start with fitment that's both easy and budget friendly. The Vors TR4s are right about $200 a wheel on our website. They're a great option, they're super popular, and they look really good on a 3000GT. They're one of those unicorn wheels that do clear the first gen caliper without a spacer, so if you're running a first gen, this might be a good option for you. This is a square setup with an 18 by 9.5 35 wheel and a 245/40/18 tire all around. One complaint with this chassis is that the front fenders are super narrow compared to the rear, which is the motivation for running a staggered setup. This car shows, though, that a square setup can look really good rather than staggered. Next up, we have Grand Life 57 CRs and an 18 by 9.5 plus 38 with Kumho KMH 275/35/18 tires all around. These wheels do clear the second generation brakes without a spacer, no rubbing, and it's on Tien Flex coilovers. If you can justify spending a bit more, you might as well. These cars are only going to appreciate in value, this is going to be a nice setup for you. White 5-spoke wheels on a white car always look really good, and this 1998 VR4 is no exception. The wheels of choice were, of course, Grandlite 57CRs. They're not the cheapest wheels, but they're also not as much as other JDM wheels. These do clear the second-gen brake without the need for a spacer, but we don't have data on the first-gen. The wheel specs are more or less the same as the previous car we looked at, but this car is rocking some very beefy 275/35/18 tires. At this ride height, the fenders don't contact the tires, but if you lower your car more, they might. Now let's look at some ESR RF2s, 19.8.5/30, 9.5/35, 245/40/19, 275/35/19 tires, Kumho Extras of course. For comparison, this is what a set of 19s look like. We're looking at FITMENT in this video, so we have to ignore the fact that this Stealth is LS1 swapped with a blower, but it is pretty darn cool. Your car might not have a crazy engine swap, but you can still copy the FITMENT. In fact, you could get the exact same wheels as well by clicking the link down below in the description. ESR wheels are great for those on a budget. You can find the exact ones on our website. Again, click the link in the description. We just redesigned our website. It's really pretty. You're gonna love it. This car is using a staggered setup. It's got thicker tires in the rear to help put all its power down. Yes, it is rear-wheel drive converted as well. For us mere mortals, we could still run this on an all-wheel drive car, as the rolling diameter is identical front and rear. This car is sitting on a set of Kansai Astro 18 9.5/22 with BF Goodwrench G4 Sport 245/40/18. Kansai.
Huh?
I can't say it.
You just like knock-knock jokes.
Knock knock. Who's there? Hawaii. Hawaii who? I'm good. How are you?
This one does have the fenders rolled, and it's lowered on D2 coilovers. It's a 91 GTO VR4, and it does show what a slightly more aggressive fitment looks like on this chassis. This is almost identical to the first car, those Vors TR4s that we looked at, but with a 22 instead of a 35 offset, pushing the wheels at an additional ½ inch. More aggressive specs does mean you'll have to consider rolling the fenders, but nothing crazy. Because these cars are so heavy, it is worth it to invest in a nice set of coilovers that aren't going to be busted after 5,000 miles. This one specifically is running D2s with great success. And if you want the same ones for front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, check them out at the link down below in the description. Now we're getting into some real cool JDM stuff. Advan TC3s 18x9+25 with Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02s 245/40/18. This is going to be a square setup once again. This one is lowered on Tien Street Flex coilovers, no rubbing issues, 2 degrees of rear camber, and ½ a degree in front. And if you want some Super JDM wheels for your Super JDM ride, Advan TCs look pretty good. This one's on a discontinued set of TC3s. We can find the updated version, the TC4s, in the exact same sizing. Once again, we do see a square setup with the all-popular tire size of a 245/40/18. In this case, the front does poke about ½ an inch, but more camber or stretched tires could make the wheels perfectly flush with the fenders. Still, a little bit of poke never hurt anybody, and this car doesn't have any rubbing issues. If you can't tell by now, most 3000 GT owners lower their car one way or another. Coilovers are pretty darn standard at this point. This one is on Tien Flexes. Many people debate over why this platform doesn't get the same attention as Skyline's RX-7s or Supras. Well, maybe it's because it has a front-wheel drive-based transversely mounted engine. Maybe it's because it's a V6 instead of a straight 6. Maybe because it wasn't featured in enough pop culture. We don't really know. What we do know is that too many of these cars are plagued by chrome Pep Boy accessories that were cool 20 years ago. We showed you in this video not only what fits, but what looks good too, and if you're ready to bring your 3000 GT into the 21st century, check out thousands of options on our website linked down below. If you've got a cool 3000 GT or a Stealth or a GTO or heck any car really, be sure to upload it to our vehicle gallery to help others out dialing in their fitment and show off your ride. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let us know what we should do a fitment guide on next in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell notification, hit the bell icon. Will I ever say bell icon? To get notifications on our videos, and I'll see you in the next one.